here.
This is it then.
Are you sure?
Positive.
It's awake. Ganon.
Where did Calamity Ganon come from? Within Breath of the Wild, Ganon seemingly came from underneath the castle and suddenly attacked the kingdom. However, what really happened leading up to these events, and what is the truth behind his sealing from 10,000 years ago? Well, to find that out, we had to start from the beginning. The Demon King Ganon has been the scourge of the kingdom of the gods since time immemorial. Once a demon thief known as Ganondorf, this Gerudo became a demonic beast and assailed Hyrule many times over. Each time, the Demon King was driven back by the hero with the unbreakable soul and the princess with the goddess's bloodline. But the conflict would always fade into legend, and the Dark One would always return. Such is the nature of the curse of the Demon King spoken out by Demise. The Hyruleans are very aware of their cyclic history, and what if they tried to do something about it? According to Impa, 10,000 years ago, the people of Hyrule were thriving as a highly advanced civilization. This prosperity was facilitated by the divine technology of the Sheikah, considered to be the power of the old gods themselves. The people were so advanced that most monsters dwelling within the kingdom posed no threat, and because they were aware of the cyclic nature of the history, they began to prepare for the inevitable return of Ganon. To assist the hero and the princess of their day, the Sheikah created the 4 divine beasts and an army of guardians. When Ganon returned, he was swiftly defeated and sealed away by the hero, the princess, and the 4 champions of the divine beasts. But where exactly was he sealed, and what were the plans for the Sheikah afterwards? After laying dormant for millennia, Ganon suddenly returns 100 years ago and lays waste to the kingdom. King Rome Bosphorus Hyrule specifies that he emerged from deep below Hyrule Castle, which seems like an oddly specific description. Once we faced Ganon in the castle, we also descended to a gigantic, empty room of Sheikah design. From the text scattered about, we learn that this room is supposed to be a laboratory of some sort. The room is also decrepit, as it has cracks and plates have fallen off the walls, revealing the bare rock beneath. This is in stark contrast to other Sheikah structures like the shrine and the divine beasts, which are still in pristine condition. The damage in the laboratory underneath the castle was thus not caused by the passing of time. Rather, it seems that the damage was caused by something raging inside. Was this laboratory built by the Sheikah to contain Ganon after his sealing? Hence the damage that indicates deliberate destruction and the fact that he emerged from below Hyrule Castle. The 5 gigantic pillars beneath Hyrule Castle also support this idea. They used to contain large amounts of guardians that only emerge when Ganon reappears, albeit corrupt. This seems to mean that these pillars were some kind of anti-Ganon defense mechanism. This in case he would ever break free, as a means to deploy the army of guardians quickly. I'd like to imagine it as a spray bottle you could use when your dog misbehaves. Bad, Ganon, bad! Back to topic. There is, however, something strange about all of this. Why would the Sheikah build a prison for Ganon only for them to abandon it and allow Ganon to break free 10,000 years later? It doesn't seem like this was the original intention. The room is called the laboratory. It's not a prison or containment room, indicating that it was the site of some sort of research. It seems like the Sheikah wanted to imprison Ganon here to study him for a certain reason. Perhaps it was to figure out his nature and to see if it could benefit them in some way, or maybe it was to end the Demon King altogether, to prevent this return, break the cycle of history, and bring eternal peace to Hyrule. But things didn't work out like that. After the sealing of Ganon, the Hyruleans and the royal family became fearful of the Sheikah and their technology. The reason for this shift in attitude is unclear. Perhaps it was because the Sheikah had sealed Ganon at the heart of the kingdom, but it's not certain. The result was clear, however. The tribe was scattered, some beginning to live normal lives, and the other turning to worshipping the Demon King. Their technology was also buried underground across the kingdom. Additionally, it seemed that around this time, a certain group of Sheikah monks received revelations from the late goddess Hylia, and sealed themselves in shrines of trials to await the coming of the next hero. The plans the Sheikah had with Ganon were ruined because of this turn of events. Thus, the Demon King was left abandoned beneath Hyrule Castle, free to continue the cycle in the future. The seal of the Sheikah still held for a long time, and kept Ganon at bay for far longer than usual, but inevitably, he broke free once more 10,000 years later. However, what role did those who swore allegiance to Ganon, the Yiga clan, play in his return? First and foremost, who who are the Yiga exactly? We know, as mentioned before, they did not agree with how the royal family had treated them. They chose to oppose the Hyrulean crown instead and become part of the demon tribe. They did not, like the Sheikah that remained loyal to the royal family, give up their way of life. Instead, they retreated from common sight. With the release of the Champions Ballad DLC back in December of 2017, we can also gather that the Yiga shared much of their culture with the Sheikah from 10,000 years prior, more so than the Sheikah of Kakariko village at least. These can be gathered from their similarities within Shrine Monk Maskoshia, discussed in greater detail in this video over here. Ring ding 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 ding! In this sense, they may be the truest group of Sheikah still out there, aside from the Shrine Monks. They did not give up their culture in favor of more Hyrulean-esque life, after all. Another plot point regarding the Yiga that has been previously speculated upon, also confirmed by the DLC, Urbosa mentions that they were plotting to resurrect Calamity Ganon, since they are, of course, well known in the area. Yeah. Evil little next door neighbor kind of things, that's what they are. After their formation, the clan decided to settle in the Gerudo Desert, more specifically in a place they dubbed their hideout. Before being taken over, this hideout was a Gerudo Temple dedicated to the 7 heroines. These heroines are said to be the divine protectors of the Gerudo tribe. The temple also houses a statue of the mysterious 8th heroine, who has not yet been erased from history. Did the Yiga consciously choose the temple because of its connection with these heroines of Gerudo lore? To answer this question, we need to explore the heroines a bit more. When their statues are examined, Gerudo typography can be found that reads 7 sages, even on the enigmatic 8th heroine. They are thus said to be divine and sages. To explain this, we need to look at the very ancient history of the Zelda universe, Ocarina of Time. In this game, statues of an evil goddess of the sands can be found in the Spirit Temple. This figure seems to have played an important role in Gerudo theology. She has had her own temple dedicated to her. But to understand her, it is necessary to look at an even earlier point in history, the immediate aftermath of Skyward Sword. The game ends with some Skyloftians deciding to stay on the surface, causing a schism in human tribes. This group of Skyloftians founded Hyrule and became known as the Hylians. Others went on to build a new capital in the heavens, the city in the sky, with salvaged ancient technology. A third group probably settled in Lanayru province and became the Gerudo over time, perhaps with Grus as a forefather. These early Gerudo would still carry the religious beliefs of the Skyloftians and would worship Hylia. Over time, the Gerudo interpretation of Hylia could have changed to better fit their culture, and so she slowly became known as the Goddess of the Sands. Both Hylia and the Sand Goddess are also associated with time. Hylia was said to have created the Gates of Time and was worshipped in Breath of the Wild's Temple of Time. She also has the ability to see into the future. This is indicated by the messages she left behind for her chosen hero that detailed very specific events. And she also was able to give revelations about the future to the Sheikah monks. The Goddess of the Sands, in turn, is associated with time by the fact that time travel is required to travel through her spirit temple. This is even made explicit by the 2 snake statues that sit in the temple's lobby. It should also be noted that the Sand Goddess is also connected to the sages via the very same temple. It is also the temple of the Sage of Spirit, after all. A last connection between the Sand Goddess and the sages is found in Twilight Princess. The 7 sages and their symbols are namely found in Arbiter's grounds. That dungeon was once a temple dedicated to the Goddess of the Sands, before it was taken over by Hylian. This is apparent by the statues of her that can be found inside the grounds. Maybe the 7 heroines then are an amalgamation of the Sand Goddess and the 7 sages. Legends combined in these heroines or sages became known as the Divine Protectors, relating to the Goddess of Sands. Does this mean the Yiga sought out this specific temple for its connection with Gerudo history? Possibly, since the desert is also the place where their god, the Almighty Ham, then known as Ganondorf, was born. They may have a potential interest in Gerudo history to learn about the culture the Demon King came from. However, they may have had additional motives for settling in the desert. A while before Breath of the Wild proper, the Yiga clan stole the Thunder Helm from under the nose of the Gerudo royal guards. This is an artifact that has been traditionally worn by the Gerudo chiefs, and may be yet another attempt of the Yiga to learn about the Gerudo and their culture. Why would these assassins be so interested in learning about the desert people? Perhaps it was all to prepare for the resurrection attempt of the Demon King and learn about his nature. The actual method the Yiga wanted to use for the revival may be something similar to what we see in Skyward Sword and the 2 Oracle games. In those games, Zelda is used as a sacrifice to revive a Demon King. The Yiga, as seen in the memories, were after Zelda and tried to kill her at least twice. Their aim may have been to use the royal princess as a sacrifice and bring their god back. However, this was prevented first by Urbosa, then by Link during their second attempt on Zelda's life. In addition to this, the Yiga may also have had part in the death of Zelda's mother 110 years prior. Her death is described as sudden and unexpected in both Urbosa's diary and Rome's memoirs. It has also led to Zelda losing the only one who could teach her how to use her sealing power. The Yiga may have secretly killed the queen in order to neutralize the threat her power posed to the return of Ganon, per the ancient legend. Because without her mother, Zelda would have no way to know how to unlock her power. Or maybe the queen's death was the first attempt as a resurrection ritual gone wrong. It would have failed since Ganon was still present beneath Hyrule Castle in the Sheikah's laboratory. It thus seems the Yiga still did not play a very large part in the actual return of Ganon. That is, unless they somehow orchestrated the prophecy made prior to the queen's death. But that's a topic for another day. The DLC does make clear that the Yiga were planning to revive him. This most likely via a sacrificial ritual. But was that even necessary if Ganon was still trapped beneath Hyrule Castle? The potential first attempt at such a ritual did not give any results as far as we know. Ganon only emerged 10 years later after all, and the second attempt with Zelda was prevented. From what we can glance from flashbacks, it also seems Ganon returned and possessed the Sheikah's technology all on his own 100 years ago. The Yiga then had little purpose left other than serving Ganon by spreading general chaos and trying to kill Link. However, they failed to do that last thing too. Instead, they are raided by the hero of legend, who in the process kills Master Koga, their leader. These many failures fit well with their general characterization. They can be quite goofy, their operations are thwarted quite easily, and their leader is buffoonish. They had literally one job. So this was the history of the prison the Sheikah prepared for Calamity Ganon 10,000 years ago, and the subsequent conspiracy of the Yiga to free their god. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys think this proposal is plausible? Or is there something we missed? Let us know.